my name is Sarah and today I'm sharing the stats, stars, and such of the first quarter of 2016. So, as you all know, I have changed the way that I do my wrap-ups a little bit this year. Rather than wrapping up each month as it ends, I am wrapping up 5 books at a time. One of the downsides of wrapping up 5 books at a time is it hasn't really allowed me to give my general impression of the reading month and things like that. So I decided that once a quarter I would share with you guys the stats, stars, and such. So today I will be sharing with you some of my statistics for the first quarter of the reading year, along with all the books I read, the star ratings I gave them, and some general thoughts that I have about the reading year thus far. So to begin with, in the first 3 months of this year, I read a grand total of 22 books for a combined 6,779 pages and an average star rating of 3.82. Of those 22 books, 12 of them were for an adult audience, 7 were for a young adult audience, and 3 were for a middle grade or children's audience. 19 of them were new reads, 3 of them were rereads, 18 were fiction, and 4 were nonfiction. Breaking the genres down a little bit more, I read 1 graphic novel, 3 science fiction books, 8 fantasy books, 1 general nonfiction book, 4 classics, 3 faith or theology-based non-fiction books, 1 contemporary, and 1 mystery or thriller. 8 of those books were part of a series and 14 of them were standalones. As far as the authors, 8 of them were written by males and 14 were written by females. Now, one of the things that I mentioned in my reading goals for the year is that I wanted to try to read a bit more diversely. I haven't necessarily focused so much on finding diverse books thus far this year just because things have been a little bit crazy, but I have been tracking the diversity of the books that I read. Of the 22 books that I've read thus far, 4 of them feature a diverse protagonist, 14 of them feature a non-diverse protagonist, and 4 of them are nonfiction and therefore do not feature a protagonist. Looking at the rest of the characters beyond the protagonist, 8 of the books do not feature any diversity at all. 10 of them feature characters with diversity represented either in regard to ethnicity, sexual orientation, or a disability. And again, 4 of them are nonfiction books, so they do not have any characters necessarily represented. As far as the publication date is concerned, 1 of the books was published in 2016, 9 of the books were published from 2010 to 2015, 4 of them were published in the 2000s, 1 was published in the 90s, 4 were published in the 80s, 1 was published in the 60s, 1 was published in the 30s, and 1 was published either in or before the 1920s. Now let's break down the star ratings. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the average star rating for the first 3 months of this year was 3.82. Starting at the top, I had 4 5-star books, 3 4.5 star books, 5 4-star books, 6 3.5-star books, 2 3-star books, 1 2-star book, and 1 1.5-star book. 1.5 stars went to Dear Mr. Knightley by Catherine Ray. 2 stars went to The Maze Runner by James Dashner. 3 stars went to Quest for Love by Elizabeth Elliot. 3 stars also went to The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. 3.5 stars went to Make It Happen by Laura Casey. The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. An Acceptable Time by Madeline L'Engle. I Kill Giants by Joe Kelly. And The Reality Bug by DJ McHale. 4 stars went to Many Waters by Madeline L'Engle. The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. For the Love by Jen Hatmaker. Beloved by Toni Morrison. And Stars Above by Marissa Meyer. 4.5 stars went to Anne of Windy Poplars by L.M. Montgomery, Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan, and The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And finally, my 4 5-star books were A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, Ink and Bone by Rachel Caine, and Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. So on the whole, it has been a pretty solid first few months of the reading year. I am a couple of books behind on my 100 books goal for the year. I was supposed to be at 25 by the end of March, but as you guys know, February and March were just a little bit on the crazy side, so I didn't quite have the time to dedicate to reading that I would have liked, but things are definitely calming down and I am getting back into a groove with my reading, and so I am hoping to knock out quite a few books over the next several weeks and get caught up rather soon. Something else you might have noticed is that I have only read one classic thus far this year, and I have only read 2 Pulitzer Prize winners. When I made my reading goals video at the beginning of the year, there were 2 big things that I did not really take into account. One is that with all of the individual goals that I was making, where I wanted to read these kinds of books every single month, that added up to 5 books every single month, unless I double dipped, unless I was reading a classic that was also a Pulitzer Prize winner, or I was reading a Pulitzer Prize winner that happened to fit with my TBR jar or something like that. Unless there was that double dipping there were 5 books every single month already that were sort of decided for me on some level, which would have been fine, except for the fact that I sort of forgot that I am very much a mood reader. I go through phases where I will read a lot of one genre for a while and then I will shift to a lot of another genre. I will want to read a bunch of classics, I will want to read a bunch of short books, I will want to read a bunch of long books. So I've changed the way I'm approaching my reading goals a little bit. It is still my aim to read at least 1 nonfiction book every single month, which I have kept up with thus far, and I am aiming to read 12 Pulitzer Prize winners this year. I'm obviously 1 month behind because I didn't get a Pulitzer Prize winner one in the month of March, but I will hopefully catch up on that within the next couple of months and on the whole read 12 over the course of the year. But when it comes to things like my goal to read 1 classic every month, I realized that was kind of a dumb idea because I am not always in the mood to read classics. I'm still hoping to read at least 6 classic literature books this year, but I'm going to spread them out a little bit more and read them at times when I'm feeling a bit more in the mood for them, rather than feeling like I have to read 1 every single month. Because like I said, my reading moods tend to ebb and flow, and so if I'm in the mood to read classics, I might read 2 or 3 or 4 classics in a row. So over the next 3 months, I am hoping to catch up on my 100 books goal and be at 50 by the end of June. And then I'm also just going to be taking it a bit more casually and go with the flow and pay much more attention to my reading moods and not focus so much on a list of books that I feel like I should or should not be reading. Well, there you have it, friends. That is my sort of general wrap up of the first 3 reading months of the year. I would love to hear how you feel the first 3 reading months of 2016 have gone for you. What was your favorite book of the year? How do you feel like your goals for the year are shaping up? Just tell me anything and everything about how these first few months of the reading year have gone for you. If you want to follow me elsewhere online, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads, all at Sarah Ann Hayes. The links for those profiles will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye! Your characters...